Well, hello all, creatives, community, kind folks out there. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ. And all right, Kitty, we seem to have ourselves a a feline visitor as well. Today is Third Pillar Thursday, and for those who don't know and have been following or just joined this channel, we've been doing a world building series. But normally, on a daily basis, we have a different subject each day, and we try to tie the entire week together. Um, uh, we have Monster Monday, Tips and Tricks Tuesday, World Building Wednesday, and one of my favorite topics, my passion, is Third Pillar Thursday. And if you didn't know, Third Pillar refers to the third pillar of gaming, as somewhat detailed with 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, where we have combat and social interactions as two of the pillars, and exploration is the third pillar. The environment, that thing to me that adds that extra spark into gaming. And since we've been doing technological world building, I thought we would talk about space. All right, so what is it about space to me that can be interesting to add to the environment when using or when delving into or describing or ramping up the tension in your high-tech future games? Now, mind you, this doesn't necessarily need to be reserved only for that. I would bring up Spelljammer as an example of the types of things that Spelljammer and even Planescape to an extent, to use some of these same techniques, these same environments, mixed and matched, of course, based on the type of game that you're trying to tell. So Tesla Ranger says, space, the final environment. So I can't do the movie voice, the movie man. Oh, I can't do it. Oh, man. All right. So what do I mean by space? Well, of course, the first thing we think about are like starships, spaceships, even rockets in our own world going up into zero gravity. So one of the first things we can talk about is gravity. Okay, we've got, and in a sense, gravity breaks away into 4 categories. Of course, we have standard gravity, or Earth-like gravity, and I'm sure there's modifications off of it, right? Earth gravity is considered to be 1.0, and then there's 0.97% gravity or 1.03 gravity or something like that. And those minutia probably don't really matter much, but we do have standard gravity. We have zero gravity, and kind of what Deadman the Storyteller has said, I can't do the movie voice, says space isn't a true absolute vacuum, though it is close. And that is absolutely true, right? There are actually molecules and atoms and things like that in space. They're just separated by such distances that that it operates effectively as a vacuum. And we even know now that along with gravity, the effects of vacuum on the human body aren't quite as dramatic as movie decompression, but movie decompression sure is fun, right? People freezing, faces exploding, eyes getting a particular hemorrhage or something like that. Those things are fun as well. But so gravity, we've got zero, Earth standard, heavy, and light gravity. And all those things can have different effects in our game. So, for example, we can have standard gravity, but standard gravity could be from artificially created, either from some high-tech device, which basically is exactly what we already see in movies, because it's very hard to replicate zero gravity. Or Total Recall, yes. Or you can have spin gravity. And that's where you take anything from a ship to a space station or hollowed out asteroid or something like that, and it's spun for gravity. So everyone, like taking a bucket of water and spinning it on a rope fast enough, the water does not fall out of the bucket because it's pushed outwards using centrifugal force. And spin gravity could be bizarre because spin gravity itself might affect, like, say, like gunfights or martial arts or something of that nature. And Dead Man brings up Mars has about half G, and half gravity, while on the good side is that we could move more mass, jump. It looks like we could jump farther. There's less weight on our body, so it might feel like we have effectively more endurance. It's also the fact that we're not used to it. So along with maybe feeling a little bit like a Superman, it also might be the fact that we're clumsy, and it might take us a little bit of time to get used to it. So you could play with that as well. And also using like half gravity, using light gravity, you could kind of play with it and have fun, meaning like you could have players fall out of 20-story buildings and not suffer as much damage, if at all, or have a running gunfight or martial arts fight or something where the PCs and the bad guys are springing 20 and 30 feet in the air and landing 50 feet down and not having to worry about it, and then have all kinds of things happen thereof. Also, places like Mars, our moon, which has extremely light gravity, some of the largest moons in our own solar system, large enough habitats which create their own gravity, or asteroids that create their own gravity. If you don't place a dome over it, for example, like if you have a dome city in Mars, you could also have like flight suits, glider wings and such. So there could be atmosphere with low gravity, which would allow people to maybe jump off the balcony of like an 80-story building and then just float to another building that's, I don't know, a quarter mile away or something, hundreds of feet, and just glide there on air currents to get away, and then have those things happen. People hanging off of buildings and bridges and walkways and such. And the light gravity allows buildings to be built taller. And of course, hey, we're talking about this far future. Light gravity plus new material sciences could make buildings hundreds of stories tall without a problem. Also, light gravity might present a problem where you're expecting certain things to happen, like kicking someone off of a balcony and hoping that they fall to their death, and they might just bounce off of ledges or something on their way down. There's also zero gravity. Now, of course, we know, and I've mentioned this before, that zero gravity really doesn't exist. Kind of like how Dead Man basically has said space really isn't a complete vacuum. Gravity doesn't. There is no place where gravity ceases to exist. It's just in our time frame, it effectively means that there's zero gravity, right? If you are launched out of a spaceship, or you lose your grip off of a space station, over time, your body will be drawn to another large object, but it might be tens of years, hundreds of years, thousands, tens of thousands of years. So that's not a big deal. But you can really ramp up the tension in a zero gravity environment. And we've seen it plenty of times done in mass media, especially television shows, and most often in movies, where someone has a cable or magnetic boots or Velcro or maneuver rockets around on the outside hull of a spaceship or a space station, and there's some kind of danger. Something's out of control. Again, another running gunfight, some kind of wrestling or something like that. And the absolute Tesla Ranger brings up the movie Gravity, which is a technological tour de force for using CGI as a backdrop, because the movie Gravity, of course, did not take place in space, but they tried to make it as the environment as real as possible, even if the circumstances weren't very realistic. Kind of packed a ton of shit into a small movie, but the movie Gravity gets the point, right? Where you could really you know, when two people are fighting, the PCs are fighting their enemies, and they realize that, hey, you don't have to worry about not just getting shot in the chest with a rail gun bullet or a laser blast or, you know, something of that nature, but also your magnetic boots might fail due to power, or someone might rip you off of the space station, or a piece of debris or a robotic arm might come by and knock you off of the skin of the ship or something, and then you may tumble away, or your arrestor cable's only, you know, 30 meters long and someone tries to cut it or something. So I think you can have a lot of fun with that. Deadman says to get to absolute zero G, you need to travel a couple light years out from any star. And absolutely, right? Which leaves a little bit of an opening, a little bit of a death save if you really want to save a PC. You know, it may not be automatically, oh, you failed your save, or your magnetic boots with a strength of 13 decoupled from the ship and you're drifting away. It may not be exactly an automatic death sentence, especially if someone has like tracking or radio or something. There could be a way to save that PC, whether it's mechanically, like a drone, or the PCs look out the window and they see them drifting by or something. Deadman says, or you could just go to one of the Lagrange points, which is something that in science fiction we often forget, that there are multiple Lagrange points around most planetary systems. Essentially, it's a stabilized point of gravity, geosynchronized above certain locations over planetary surfaces, and I believe they number in 5 locations, which is kind of strange itself. Almost like I would relate it to the effects of drifting like a boat through water. So when a boat travels through water, it creates like a ripple effect. It creates waves, and those gravity, I guess you call them gravity waves or something. I'm trying to make an analogy. It's terrible. But anyway, things bob on the surface of the gravity in front of and behind things like the moon and around Earth and places like that. And I could imagine like Lagrange points could be, certain Lagrange points could be for the rich and famous, where all of their habitats float in one area. And then you could have like a garbage Lagrange point, where destroyed or shut down, or old habitats are towed to and then just left there and scavenged from them. Tesla says the microwave background radiation is 3K, so that's the lowest you can go, barring lab conditions. And then Deadman says most objects have 6 Lagrange points, 6 of them. And like I said, you could have people living in Lagrange points, or objects in Lagrange points, then again setting up an environment. So for example, if you have a trash heap Lagrange point where not just debris dumped into space, but literally like a junkyard, you can have ships that have to pilot through it, people living in them. I don't know where I've heard this from, but the Lagrange points, the L, I've heard people who would live in those in space being referred to as elves, not elves, elves, like as in a derivation of the letter L, like you're an elf, like you live in space, you live in the Lagrange area or something. Although you could just call people Lagrangians, Lagrangeoids, Lagrange folk or something. Tesla says there's only 5. L1 through 3 are unstable. 4 and 5 are stable. L1 through 3 are in the same line as the 2 large masses. 4 and 5 are 60 degrees ahead or behind in the same orbit as the smaller mass. So the moon operates 1 Lagrange point, and then Lagrange 4 and 5, I believe, is ahead and behind the moon. Or is it the point between the Earth and the moon? Whatever. Okay. I'm not going to Google through it, but you guys get the point, right? You could play with the Lagrange points in terms of them being a stable area to play with, and then using that. Also, Yes, Kitty. I didn't bring this up, but with gravity and vacuum, we have decompression. Uh, Very fun, very movie-like, but you can play with that as well. Jeez, the television show The Expanse plays with decompression as well, in terms of like uh, PCs have conflict with bad guy, something happens. Vince, what's going on? Oh, cupcakes. Yeah, we went out to see. We had um, early Valentine's Day, so we went out to see Bohemian Rhapsody. But side note, we'll talk about that at the end. The the idea of like slamming the bulkhead shut and then dumping the air out of a room and then opening up the hatch doors to have everything flood out is a trope, but it works, right? Dumping people, as Alice sounds good, yeah. Dumping people out into space, objects, people, bad guys, dangerous alien creatures that are trying to invade your ship. Explosive decompression is definitely a thing that you could absolutely play with. The strength saves to hold on so you don't get sucked out into space. The initiative roll to get your hood shut on your spacesuit so you don't get the oxygen sucked out your lungs. The danger of the cold, the extreme cold out in space if you don't have your spacesuit on, which why wouldn't you have your spacesuit on? The explosive decompression that imparts momentum to you, sucking you out and drawing you past other dangers. Maybe one of the PCs is holding onto the bulkhead or grips in the floor or onto a piece of cargo, and then another PC ends up losing their grip and now they're flowing past you and you've got to make the one dex roll to reach out and grab their hand before they flow past you, or the bad guy hanging onto your ankle while also trying to pull their gun to shoot you in the chest, and you're thinking, why would you shoot me in the chest? You're gonna die, die, motherfucker, die, die, so something like that, right? Tesla Ranger says airlocks never have proper safety systems. Well, it's those darn dwarves again. If dwarves learned how to make railings in their ancient stair systems and walkways, maybe we wouldn't have these problems in the future. Blame them. Vincent says never. What the hell? Whoa. Okay. This is my very first and only Mythos Irving has just given me a super chat. I appreciate that. Oh man, slow clap. Thank you so much. Says I found out about you from Inferno Canuck. Keep up the good work, my man. Inferno Canuck? Who's this person and who are you? You're going to have to give me some more information as to who you are. Go into the Discord, whatever. Just pop in some information, man. Thank you so much. Thank you. Wow. I feel famous. I feel like internet famous now. That's kind of cool. All right. So yeah, welcome to the club. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're just talking about space, using that as a backdrop for any and every and all of your far future, like gaming, like your adventure, and then just using that as a backdrop, right? Yeah, I've never. Thanks for joining in, man. Mythos. Dead Man the Storyteller says space isn't actually cold. The lowered pressure can cause water to freeze. So I'm going to have to take issue with you, Deadman, because the issue I have with you is that you are absolutely positively correct. And yet, on the other hand, I feel like that takes all the fun out of it. But yes, you're absolutely right. Scientists have kind of speculated that if we were to get sucked out into space, if we just held our mouth shut and closed our eyes, we wouldn't suffer as fast or as dramatic and explosive decompression as movies have made it out to be. which honestly works in our favor for gaming purposes, right? You could claim, I know I'm using 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons for this, but like you can claim a death save. You might not even get to the death save area where you can start making con saves that keep getting increasingly more difficult to make before the person starts quote unquote dying, so they could be saved or grab onto something or what have you, before maybe there's a helmet floating in space and one of the PCs is like, kicks the helmet towards them so they can put it on their head so that they don't die. They might get some like frostbite or effects like that, but honestly, they say space really isn't the dump into space and then you explode in the goo, right? Or dumped into space and then 3 seconds later you freeze to death. It's a lot less than that, but still, Dead Man the Storyteller is actually correct, which helps us out, but it's not as dramatic like a movie effect. But I mean, a bad guy, your crunchies, your minions, whatever, they die quick, right? We're going to let that go. Vince says Inferno Canuck seems to be a Canadian Let's player. He played Baldur's Gate, but other than that, I can't see a connection. Yeah, how did that happen? The intricacies of the World Wide Web. So yeah, I'm gonna make a poster of this. Matter of fact, hold on for a minute, guys. I'm going to let's get a photograph here. I've got my phone up. I'm going to take a picture, right? Perfect. All right, there we go. Sorry, man. Sorry, it just makes me feel good. Whoa, shit, dude. Well, okay, all right, man. That's enough. Tesla Ranger says, no, never hold your breath. Your lungs will burst. Are you serious? Is that? Oh, it's the lower pressure. You let the air out of your lungs because the pressure inside your body makes your body. I got it all wrong. So thanks for letting me kill myself out in space there, Tesla Ranger. Maybe you send the radio to me to let me let me survive. Vincent says, I found a video for him. He referred to you in his doobly-doo, posting the link in Discord. Thank you so much, Vince. Vince, you guys are wow. If I wasn't surrounded by such awesome people. And by the way, Mythos, thank you again. Yeah, I know, Zala. Jeez, I'm thinking the same thing, man. Yeah, wow. It's not Mythos is not necessary to do that, but I appreciate it because it was like it's activated on the channel, which whatever. I'm just amazed. I'm getting squirreled here. I'm getting distracted. Yeah. Vince says, yeah, that would totally happen. I'm assuming you're talking about the lung issue. Vince says, weirdly enough, we don't know him. Give him a thumbs up from us. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to do a search for this Inferno Canuck and then try to maybe give him a little shout out on his channel or something like that. Maybe come up with something. Okay, so I've already killed us by holding my breath instead of letting the air out my lungs. I've already ruined the fact that we really don't go into space and have explosive decompression. Gravity really is a thing that does exist out there, but thanks, Vince, because I will definitely check that out. But we're still not done yet. All right, so we've got gravity. We've got different types of gravity. Zero gravity. Okay, zero gravity can impart. Zero gravity does not mean mass disappears. So momentum can be imparted to things, even though the act of moving that momentum may not be a big deal. Okay, so for example, you're in a cargo hold. There's cargo pallets that are each 1 ton apiece. They exist everywhere, all right? Suddenly there's zero gravity and the straps or magnetic fields or whatever that's holding all the cargo down lifts up. The cargo goes everywhere. Tools start scattering around. Machinery that lifts things up in in Earth gravity or standard gravity starts floating around the room. Again, we have a running fight, a gunfight. We're having things. you could the objects moving may move slowly, possibly, so you could get out the way. But if you get trapped between a wall and a 1-ton piece of cargo and it's coming towards you, it could crush you if other momentum isn't applied to it to move it out of your way, right? So as a human being, you could push off a wall and push that 1-ton cargo by imparting momentum to it. But to stop it after it starts to move would be just as hard, because it does weigh 1 ton, right? Or weight, or the density of it is heavier, the mass of it. So you could have situations where you have like debris bopping and moving around the room, whether it wants to or not, and then maybe it shatters. Each round, everyone has to make saves so they don't get hit or pinned by stuff or have their leg broken or whatever. I mean, that would be crazy. Mythos Irving says, "I wish I could give you U.S. money, but all I had, more than filthy Canadian Monopoly money." Are you kidding me? The American dollar's it's not much more than 1,000-sheet toilet paper as well. So don't get all pissed off there. Yeah, $10 Canadian. Hell, listen, I'm a spit's throw away from you too. I'm in Central Ohio, 6-hour drive, and I'm in Canada. So Canada, I'm just being silly. Yeah, I could use a little bit of Canada. They're a lot more polite. Yeah, Dead Man says CA is nearly the same as US, which is absolutely right. Yeah, Azal says, "As much appreciate Mythos, but certainly not necessary." Thank you, Azal. Thank you again. Thank you very much. Yeah, I want to know that too. Vince says, "What do you like about the channel, Mythos?" Yeah. What is it? Oh wow, I'm going to DM for the first time with my friends in a Rifts campaign, so your tips are very helpful. Wow, Rifts. Oh, Rifts. Okay, Rifts Palladium or Rifts Savage Worlds. I love the Rifts setting, which Rifts it has space in it too. So let's not forget about that. So while you're doing that, we also there's other dangers we could add to our games when talking about space that we can put in if we're willing to let some of our things go. So we've got like radiation, which is a big deal, solar flares. We have not just radiation, background radiation, but spikes in radiation. For example, like Jupiter and Saturn tend to have lots of radiation and radio disruptions simply because of the spinning of their cores. And of course, the sun absolutely positively has those things. Ooh, palladium. Yeah. Now, the palladium system, be careful. Do not, and I'm going to tell you this 3 times, do not say, "Hey guys, make up a character, whatever character from every book, and I'll just run it. Do a session 0. If everybody wants to play mega damage OCCs or RCCs, make sure you find out what they're going to do and everyone agrees to it. Don't let one person play, I don't know, a samurai and another person play a dragon. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. You're going to hurt your feelings and everyone else's. Have everyone get together and play the same thing. And again, don't let that be your function. The players have a job too. And one of their jobs might be, hey, you guys decide how you guys know each other and why you're together, right? You as the DM can say that to them, right? Zala says everyone plays hobos. Done. Yeah. Vince says I made a huge list of potential stuff you can add in Space Encounters. Vince, my man with the list. I love making lists. Oh, random ass lists and things. Yeah. Vince says nebulas, space stations, ship encounters, parasites, meteorites. Oh, hell yeah. I mean, we for dramatic purposes, we often forget about space debris and micrometeorites, but they, unfortunately, like our own atmosphere in Earth is surrounded by that crap. And, there's no telling when or where a spaceship might encounter, fast moving micrometeorites that could just punch through the hole. Of course, there's asteroid fields, and again, yeah, Vince says ship graveyards. Absolutely, that's what I was talking about. Like the Lagrange points, you could have like ship graveyards where in a space interstellar society, they probably destruction of materials wouldn't be a big thing because they're so valuable, but you know, scavenging those things would be great. So a ship that gets punched through with like debris and hit with disruptors and hit a couple times with photon torpedoes, somebody's probably going to want to scavenge that and place it somewhere in space and then go through it. Yeah, Dead Man, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you, dude. It's the same power levels in Rifts, the same power level. Don't let that get out of hand. Mythos said the thing that appeals to me is you can play mathematician and beat a daemon with math and explosives. You can do anything in Rifts, man. I don't make me pull out my Rifts books because I will. Yeah, yeah. Wow, that would be a throwback review, wouldn't it? Deadman Storyteller says technically you can't encounter meteorites in space since it doesn't become a meteorite until it hits the ground. Look, see, here we go again with so it would be technically asteroids until gravity snatches them up. Although if they're moving through space, I don't know. Comets, I don't know. How would you classify that? I don't know. But yes. Also, well, says Dead Man brings up the point that re-entry is another thing that we've seen in mass media, right? The yeah, exactly. Yeah, Vincent says thanks for the actually Dead Minute, and he's being silly because this is the perfect place for the well actually, because if we intend on using those things, some people would prefer to have things, especially if you're going to play like a gritty or far more realistic setting. Maybe you want to play like Call of Cthulhu in space as like, you know, astronauts or like cosmonauts or something. Whereas if you're doing like space fantasy like Star Wars, it may not matter as much. But yeah, Alien Resurrection, yes. There's the idea of oh man, re-entry is a trope that is used in science fiction where you only have a certain amount of time before you burn up in re-entry, or you have to pilot a ship or a what do they call, like an escape pod a specific way, or a ship somehow loses power or falls out of orbit, and you only have a certain amount of time before it burns up or fires begin to start in the ship or the heat gets too much. And you could really ramp up each round something happening where pieces of a ship are falling apart, or the PCs only have, you know, 1d8 rounds before they start to catch on fire, or maybe the fire only does like 1 hit point of damage and each round it increases 2 points and 3 points and 4 points or something like that, or maybe some of their equipment starts to fail. All of that stuff. Yeah, exactly. Vince says, I once wrote a chase scene which started in space and did go through re-entry in a power suit. It was great fun. It ended up with the gliders in a canyon. And that's the thing, right? You can survive re-entry. In a way, we've seen in real life a gentleman jump from the outer atmosphere in a spacesuit and deployed a parachute. And we've also seen a gentleman jump out of a high altitude blimp and use a flight suit. So, you know, ending up in gliders in a canyon would be sweet. I mean, you can do so much in space. And I think sometimes you know, of course, the default is you pull out your laser weapons and I pull out my laser weapons and we shoot at each other. But the location we do it in could really make something exciting, especially if you've had your third gunfight or, you know, knockout brawl and it's kind of boring. having a fight between two people fighting over a parachute, or having a fight where both of them are in, you're in your bird suit or glider suit or something, and someone else is coming after you, and you can increase your speed. Maybe the faster you go, the more difficult it is to control yourself. So your balance or acrobatics check or dexterity checks might be tougher, but you go faster. Or you could try to slow yourself down by creating like a wider, like arrow braking. But you know what I mean? Like, well, you could arrow brake and go slower and have an easier time, right? So I mean, you could do all of those things. Man, I wonder what it'd be like to do an acid trip in space. I don't know, man. I, I think I'd be like, I think I'd be a wimp. I think I'd start vomiting and stuff in space. I don't know. Something about the zero gravity and the spinning and not knowing which way is up to me, I think would affect me. Yeah, I'm not sure. No, sorry, I'm just reading in the chat. Okay, so solar flares and radiation are, to me, while they don't necessarily have to be like immediate dangers, I think that's something we can play with as game masters, especially if we foreshadow it. Similar to how television makes cell phones and computers unreliable, if you really want to have like zero radio chatter, computers start to fail, radar systems get disrupted, that kind of thing, you could use solar flares as the reason for not having communications, or radar systems and sonar systems start to fail, heads-up displays become disrupted, all of those things. Maybe there's a bad guy, and you really want the PCs to land their ship instead of just like trying to bombard it from space. So you could say, oh, your targeting systems are bad because of a solar flare, or you're trying to ping off the rocky surface of Mercury, but your radar system isn't picking up anything because of the solar flares, from the sun. Now, I wouldn't do that without foreshadowing it. So you could say, almost like weather systems on Earth, where you predict a storm coming, you could have satellites that are predicting extensive solar flare radiation and effects. And then when the PCs get to the point where maybe you really want to ramp up some tension, boom, you just say, hey, there's solar flares. Now, I understand that, like, to an extent, it's kind of like, like eye rolling, like if players like, oh, you just made solar flares just so we can't find the bad guy. But I mean, are solar flares a real thing? Sure. Same thing with radiation. Maybe radiation bursts or something where the PCs have to huddle inside of like radiation tents or radiation safe zones. And it could be the enemy of my enemy, right? The PCs have an enemy. They hate each other. All of a sudden now there's an alarm that goes off. Everyone has to crowd themselves into these little tight radiation domes or radiation safe zones and close the doors until the radiation passes. And then the PCs are there with their guns ready to shoot the other person, but there's nowhere to run. So you can't drop a grenade, you can't, use your rail guns or something. And that might be a possibility too. Because if you use those, you'll kill yourself and open up the barrier to space and irradiate yourself. Or you expose yourself to radiation knowing that you only have, I'm just making this up, like an hour to take an anti-radiation tablet, and the anti-radiation tablet might be in your old flight suit or something. Like, it could be those kind of things too. Like the PCs end up getting radiation poisoning, and it's the difference between, do we chase the bad guy, or do we go into the micro dock tent to get our radiation poisoning fixed or something. Not sure with Mythos is not to be confused with Tien Shannon solar flare. I'm not familiar with that reference. Cupcake still done. Oh, Dragon Ball Z. Shit. What? I forget these things. Used to be my favorite character. So so we have, so in space we've got uh zero gravity, we got light gravity, we have some radiation, we have decompression, we have moving around mass, we have re-entry, solar flares, radiation, we have disruption of communications, ten shinen in German. Yeah. But we're still not done with space, not entirely. Okay, so one thing brought up by Joseph Keenan, and I just want to point this out. There's plenty of Joseph Keenan has been responding to a lot of the videos, and this goes for all of you guys. Agreeing with me is not a rule to participate, right? You guys already know it's not about agreeing with the things I have to say. It's about us being open. So don't feel like you're like, oh, DBJ is correct. It's like, hell no. It's about us getting into conversations and not apologizing for it. This isn't save the apologies for somebody else. We're all good here. Vincent says nebulas. You can put everything you want into a nebula: sensor blockage, electrical storms, living organisms, acid nebulas. I love the idea of nebulas, right? They can be like places to hide ships. Now, in reality, I mean, are nebulas, are they really like gas clouds that you could literally hide a ship inside of it? Probably not in reality. But do they work? Well, hell yeah. Like, could you have one nebula where you pilot your ship and like it's acid going through? Thanks, Vince. Vince says, I never agree with you. You should know that. Absolutely, right? And that's kind of the point, right? Usually there's no one answer for anything. And so it's usually circumstance, not necessarily right or wrong, which is like the whole part of gaming in the first place. But yeah, you like an acid nebula where you pilot your ship, but it's starting to eat away at the hull, or a living organism nebula that begins to try to communicate with the ship or invade the computer systems and whatnot. Like he brings up electrical storms that shorts out or disrupts the mechanical systems in the ship for a short time. Maybe it's the maneuver jets at one point, and then the sensors, like he says, sensor blockages and all those kind of things. So you can have so much fun with space as an environment, and then layer that with whatever you're encountering, which is so cool. Mythos says, but sometimes as a DM, I've heard always be prepared for really smart players to find a way to kill your villain, and if it's cleverly done, you should let it happen and reward them. The last thing you want to do is rob them of bullshit escapes. That is absolutely right. My feeling is don't prepare for what the players will do. Prepare your world and then have the world react to what the players then do. So don't prepare for the smart players, right? Don't necessarily build the world like, oh, they're going to sneak into the castle. Oh, they're going to backstab my bad guy. Oh, they're going to set off explosives. Because if they don't do those things, you're not going to be prepared. The best thing you should do is prepare your bad guy, right? Prepare your NPCs. Does your security guard have a gambling debt? Does your bad guy desire to, I don't know, take over the countryside? Does your bad guy's left-hand man, who's a powerful bodyguard, does he secretly dislike the villain, right? Prepare that. And then if the PCs throw you a curveball, react to them based on how you know your world will react. So the ogre that's terrorizing the countryside because he's stealing cows and grog, if the PCs solve the situation by making a deal with the ogre by giving him a cow every month and free alcohol, maybe that solves the problem instead of killing him, right? And by the way, as a DM, don't get pissed off when your bad guys get killed, because guess what? You have role-playing books. You never run out of bad guys. There's no monster manual police that say you can't have more demons. That doesn't exist, right? You can add in as many bad guys as you want. If they kill one bad guy, yeah, make up another one. It's not a big deal. It may hurt your feelings, but yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah. Yeah, Vince says he says to Mythos Irving, a great general rule: don't prepare a fixed story. Just make an environment and NPCs and see what happens. It takes time to master. Yeah, it's also letting go of something that you really want to hold on to. It's very difficult to say, hey, I want to make a story and I don't know how it's going to turn out. But really, that's what it is. It's like letting your baby go and seeing what happens. Yeah, Vince says, so I would advise you to start with dungeons in any form, right? Like a medieval dungeon. A dungeon could be exploring a spaceship. A dungeon could be exploring a space station. A dungeon could be exploring an abandoned building, like a small enclosed space that you can kind of have a little bit control. Yeah, Mythos says exactly. Build the world will take care of itself. But be careful, because if you overbuild the world, your PCs might either ignore some of the parts that you find are the best, or they might destroy it. That happens too. Sometimes PCs just want to burn the world, and that could hurt your feelings as well. Yeah. Vince says, don't give them a fixed solution. Just make the traps and see what happens. The boss monster was actually just a minion of an even bigger boss monster. Yep, and build a better villain. Exactly, right? Your master vampire that's been around for 1,000 years, and the PCs, kick his ass in one round. Well, he was around for 1,000 years, but he was a thrall to, I don't know, another world fiend that has been keeping him alive for 1,000 years and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. So those are things. Yeah, we've been bouncing back and forth with this third pillar, but whatever. So also in space, because Vince talks about things like nebulas with energy beings and crewmen that could fly in space and all that kind of stuff. I think sometimes we can tend to ignore certain things. For example, like I kept talking about having a running gunfight, but and in space we always have like the laser battles, people shooting each other with like laser guns and things like that. But a lot of those weapons would harm the very environment they're inside of. Like, you really don't want people shooting guns inside of your spaceship, even though it would happen, or maybe would happen out of desperation. So the threat of shooting a firearm, like a slug thrower in space, or exploding a grenade, or having a gyrojet rocket pistol or something in a enclosed environment might not be a good thing. And the end result of that weapon hitting someone, or more likely missing someone, could create more hazards than it's worth, which in itself could ramp up the tension as well. You take out your machine pistol or your railgun assault rifle and your Gauss gun, and you start firing it into the hull as it misses the bad guy, and the bad guy is like screaming like, please don't, over the radio, and all of a sudden it blows out a part of the wall, and then all of a sudden everybody starts getting sucked out into space. Then the PCs might go, man, I should have used my stun gun or my needler or my warbler, my Vox weapon or something that creates like sound waves or electrical impulses or something like that. Yeah. Vince's theory rarely survives reality. Yeah. Mythos says that's why you save your work. Don't scrap shit. It can be used in other campaigns if you must, but yeah, have a flexible story. Also, the other idea of saving things that are scrapped is that improv. Sometimes you hear people talking about what are skills to use as an improv GM. And the basic skill of an improv GM is save all that shit you had from your last game. Like every game that like spiraled down into like were completely destroyed, all that stuff you never used is sitting up in your brain. Those are things that you're sitting up here. So improv is just preparation that was destroyed. in many ways, right? It's the scraps of your prep, and hey, they completely ignored my ogre encounter. Got it in my back pocket. Hey, they completely ignored that really cool flooding room trap I wanted to use. It's in your back pocket. They ignored the 3 NPCs in that small town I thought they were going to go to. It's in your back pocket now. So next time your PC, your players are like, wow, you really improv that. And you're just like, no, I didn't. I had that from 3 games ago, but really you did, right? Perfect poker face. Mythos is now I just need to study the risk books, and God dang it, there's a lot of crap to go through. Sure is. Sure is. Learn that mega damage. Vince says, what you could also do for space environments is massive objects. Just make a space station you can fly into. Oh, you mean like a space station so big your spaceship can fly into it? I love that kind of stuff. Maneuvering in tight quarters, whether you're in like a spacesuit maneuvering around very tight or destroyed corners, or even maneuvering your starship through it. We've seen that plenty of times as well, where the Millennium Falcon is being piloted through a very tight asteroid field or starship, or dry dock or something like that, or maneuver between 2 other starships that are maneuvering very close. Vince says then you can use normal environments for your ship. Just scale them up, like hallways, traps, walls, energy fields. Pit traps for your spaceship, right? Falling ceilings, net traps. What are some other things? Spike traps that scrape against your starship. What's the trap where you trip something and spikes shoot out of the wall? You could have something like that, where if your ship flies past something, it activates point defense systems, or your ship flies past something and it activates a door that's about to close at the end of the hallway, and you've got to fly your ship fast enough to get past the door before it closes shut or something. Yeah, Gonzalez's Death Star level so big it has its own gravity. Well, hell, the Death Star trench fight, right? The Death Star trench itself is an environment, right? So you have to and it was a 3-stage environment. So we're going to have ourselves a space battle with TIE fighters. We're going to have a space battle with point defense systems with cannons. Then we're going to have a space fight as we fly down a trench with a tight space. You see what I'm saying? I mean, you can play a lot of those things. Tesla says, remember that Star Trek Next Generation episode with the Dyson sphere? When the ship got too close to a hatch, a tractor beam pulled them inside. Basically a very large pit trap. You know what? Absolutely. And and then in the Dyson sphere episode, that really did happen, right? The tractor beam pulls them in. The door opens up. Their ship, size-wise, was like this tiny little thing. They go into the pit trap. They're like, whoa, we're inside of a Dyson sphere. And they didn't explore it. And I was just like, dun, 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 I'm upset. But what a great episode as far as like the atypical Dyson sphere, which, without hypertech wouldn't exist, because you wouldn't have an atmosphere inside of a dome. Whatever. But we know like but the dream is out there. There's a dream. Hopefully somebody will create something like that. Yeah, damn the Dyson sphere. I love that episode. Me too. In Espergenesis, there's a giant space station the size of moons called Crucibles. They look to be made of metal but have the texture of flesh. Azala says that, and I have Espergenesis. I still haven't finished reading it. Just like paging through it, reading through it. Espergenesis, for those who don't know, is the complete 5th edition overhaul of using the 5th edition rules in a far-flung science fiction setting where there are, instead of magic, there's basically like energy wielders and psionics, essentially. Vince says in Star Trek Motion Picture, we also had this giant ship they flew inside. It had to go through this giant energy field, which was the shields of the ship. Yeah, absolutely. Dyson sphere would be exactly like riffs. A dead man and storyteller says, yeah. I mean, the riffs, you can go so far with it. And I think sometimes what the cool thing about using science and the reality of science is that when we break it, it becomes that much more exciting. Like it's all of these last 9 things make sense. This 10th thing does not make sense at all. And the PCs might be like, whoa, well, why doesn't it make sense? It doesn't make sense that it doesn't make sense, right? Which is the whole point of exploration in any place, right? It's the reason why it's the reason why adventure exists, right? Hey, we found fish in the ocean. Great. We found fish in the ocean. Great. We found a life form in the ocean, and it doesn't apply to these other rules we have. And then we was like, really? Let's go investigate that, right? You know what I mean? So, yeah, we're heading up to the hour mark. I have to say something to my lovely wife, baby. Babe? I thought she said, oh, I thought she was leaving out for work. So sorry. Guys, really appreciate you guys being here. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you out there. And to my lovely wife. Guys, first name or last? I love Scotty. We share the same name, Scott. I don't know what that means. Yeah. Vince is also, why couldn't there be a giant creature you can use as an environment, or giant sea inside space you can get into? Oh, the get swallowed by the giant creature? Absolutely. Yeah, we always do the giant, the swallowed by the giant creature trope. Well, why not? It exists for a reason, because it's cool. You know, fighting red and white blood cells and all that kind of stuff, getting electrocuted by the neurons, falling into an acid sea and the stomach acid and whatever, getting pumped into the heart and not getting crushed by the heart, getting sucked into the lungs and having to fight your way out of the lungs because it keeps breathing in and out and getting sucked into it or something. Giant space poodle. You would say that, Azala, wouldn't you? Anyway, guys, listen, big giant hugs, happy Valentine's Day to all of you out there. Thank you very much. Love you guys. Mythos, thank you very much for the super chat. First time, great time, not necessary, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Hell, maybe it might make a you might have created something that might grow into what would be an awesome thing. I gotta give some kind of like, not reward, but like a gift or something. I'm gonna come up with something. But anyway, guys, thank you very much. Maybe I might even do an RPG thing about Saint Valentine. That would be kind of cool. Oh, Vince says, don't forget to check out the video in Discord. I also sent it to you on Facebook. Thank you very much, Vince. Well, I'm going to check out the Inferno Canuck as well. Mythos, everyone, thank you so much. Guys, have a great day. Tomorrow's Future Friday. Not exactly sure. Hey, Mythos, do me a favor. In this chat right now, or in the comment section in the video, or in the Discord, please suggest a topic, and that will be the topic probably for a video, or even maybe even for the whole week. Yes, Tesla Ranger says Saint Valentine drives the snakes out of Ireland, and if I'm not mistaken, Saint Valentine broke the rules and married soldiers when he was ordered not to, because the king at the time felt that unmarried soldiers would make more loyal soldiers than ones who had families back home. Oh, was it St. Patrick that drove out the snakes, and St. Valentine married soldiers? Something like that. What Betho says, I believe in supporting good content. No, I believe in supporting people who support good content. So if you have if you don't have an idea for some kind of like a subject we can talk about, like right off the top of your head, I'll probably roll into riffs as a backdrop. So, but don't feel like you have to do it right now, but just think of something like that, and then I'll come up with like a subject or whatever. I think that'd be really great. I would love a riff series tutorial, maybe, no pressure. Okay, might pull up my Rifts books, and of course, as always, we can take those things and spread them out into a larger scope. So I think that'd be kind of cool, and maybe even talk about why the hell people love Rifts in the first place, and then how you could use the idea of what Rifts is in your own game world. I like that. I like that very much. Yeah, yeah. So that might become the subject. Shit, we could take that all week. So anyway, guys, thank you very much. Everyone have a great day. Tomorrow is Future Friday. Still not sure what we're going to talk about, but whatever. This shit is my channel. You guys make it up, so we'll come up with something. And end this series on high technology, and then flow back into our generalized like Dungeons and Dragons, medieval, and then flow into other things as well. Guys, everyone have a great day. Oh, you had an idea? Okay. For Future Friday? Of course I don't remember. I'm scatterbrained. Yeah. Anyway, have a great one, Vince. Oh yes, shit, cities in space. Yes, thanks, Vince. And love you, baby. Happy Valentine's Day. Have a great day at work. All right, love you. Bye. So, guys, have a great one. Of course, you know me. I'm scatterbrained. Vince had a great idea. Vince, you'll be part of the chat. I mean, part of the chat. Co-host as well, and talk about the subject of cities in space. I'm going to go ahead and fix that right now. Guys, have a great one. Thank you very much. And Mythos, again, thank you very much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Who knows? This might snowball into something.